Alright, so today we're going to answer another multiple units material balance problem. And this time, we will get our problem from the Principles of Chemical Engineering Processes, Material and Energy Balances, 2nd edition by Nayef Gassem and Redhone Henda. So, our problem is about distillation column in series. So, let me read first our problem and then makikita natin na we already have the diagram set up right here. No? So, two separation columns in sequence are used to separate the components of a feed consisting of 30% benzene, which is B, 55% toluene, which is T, and 15% xylene, which is X. Okay, so ito yung codes na gagamitin natin. B for benzene, T for toluene, and X for xylene. The analysis of the overhead stream of the first column yields 94.4% of benzene. Okay, so this is the overhead stream sa ating first column, and it has 94.4% of benzene. So we have 0.944 of B. Then we have 4.54% of toluene. So we have here 0.0454 of toluene and 1.06% of xylene, which is here we have 0.0106 of xylene. Okay, so dito naman sa ating feed, our feed here is M1, and it is mentioned here we have 30% of benzene, so we have 0.3 of B, 55% of toluene, so we have 0.55 of toluene, and 15% of xylene, so we have 0.15 of xylene in here. Now, the second column, which is this one, is designed to recover 92% of toluene. Okay, so let us write that here. Our M4 in here is actually designed to recover 92% of toluene from original feed, which is M1. Okay, so our toluene here will be 92% of our original amount ng toluene from M1. Now, the bottoms are intended to contain 92.6% of xylene in the original feed. Okay, so in our bottom, M5, this is also designed or intended to contain 92.6% of xylene from M1. Okay, because this is coming from the original feed with a composition of 0.776. So, ito yung composition ng ating xylene here. 0.776. While dito naman sa ating overhead, our toluene composition is 0.946. Okay? So, our requirement is to compute the compositions of all streams. So, kailangan natin makuha yung values ng lahat ng ating streams, M1, M2, M3, M4, and M5, and determine its composition. Okay, so gaano karami ang mga components natin sa bawat units. Well, of course, first thing to do is to set our basis. And since everything is expressed in percentage, so I think it is logical to have a basis of, let's say, 100 kilogram per hour of our feed. Okay? So, our M1 here is equal to 100 kilogram per hour. And since we already have a value for our M1, we can determine the value of our benzene, toluene, and xylene in our feed. Okay? So, let us write that here. Our feed or M1 composition. So, our benzene is equal to 0.3 times 100, which is equal to 30 kilograms per hour. Our toluene is 0.55 of 100. So this is equal to 55 kilogram per hour. And then for our xylene, we have 0.15 times 100. So this is 15 kilogram per hour. Okay, so meron na tayong values ng ating mga components dito. Okay, so first, let us set our overall material balance and our material balance on each of our units. Okay, so first, let us do our overall material balance. Okay, so in our overall material balance, meron tayong pumapasok na M1. Okay, so M1. And the rest are leaving. So this is equal to, we have M2, which is leaving, plus M4, which is leaving, plus M5, which is also leaving. Okay, so sa lahat ng ating given dito, ang meron lang tayong value is yung ating M1. The rest are unknown. Then, let us have our material balance in our unit 1. Okay? Okay, so let me change this as that para hindi nakakalito. So, material balance in our unit 1, we have M1 coming in, and M2 and M3 are leaving. So, M1 is equal to M2 plus M3. So, again, M1 lang ang meron tayong value. M2 and M3 are unknown. So, now, let us have our material balance dito sa ating second unit. So, what is coming in? Our M3 is coming in, M4 and M5 are leaving. So, we have M3 is equal to M4 plus M5. On this material balance, as we can see, everything is unknown. Hindi natin alam yung value ng M3, M4, and M5. So, now let us try to have a balance kung saan makakakuha tayo ng value ng ating stream. Okay, so as you can see, lahat ng streams natin dito na lumalabas contains benzene, toluene, and xylene. Okay, so if you're going to have an overall material balance, this is going to be quite complicated. However, binigyan tayo ng very significant detail here na pwede nating magamit. Okay, so if you're going to determine kung gaano karaming toluene meron tayo dito sa M4, it is possible because alam natin yung value ng M1. And we know that 92% of toluene should be here in our M4 because this process is designed to produce 92% of toluene coming from our feed. So, knowing that, let us determine the amount of toluene in our M4. Okay? So, anong information meron tayo dyan? In our M4, 92% of toluene from M1 will be produced dito sa ating overhead, which is our M4. Okay? So, that means toluene in M4 is actually equal to 92% of our toluene from M1. Okay? So, our toluene from M1 is equal to 55 kilogram per hour. Right? So, therefore, our toluene in M4 is equal to 0.92 times toluene from M1, which is 55 kilogram per hour. So, therefore, our toluene in M4 is equal to, we have 0.92 times 55, and this is equal to 50.6 kilogram per hour. Okay, so meron na tayong value ng ating toluene here. This is 50.6 kilogram per hour. Okay? Now, we know that in our M4, toluene is 94.6%. Okay? So, yan ang composition ng toluene dito sa ating M4. Okay? It is written right here. In overhead stream, the composition is 0.946. Okay, so that means we can determine our M4 stream. How are we going to do that? It is mentioned that our toluene here is 0.946 of our M4. Okay, so that means 0.946 of our M4 is equal to our toluene M4. Okay, so that means our M4 is equal to our toluene in M4 divided by 0.946. But we know the value of our TM4, which is 50.6 kilogram per hour. So let us divide that to 0.946. So therefore, our M4 is equal to 50.6 divided by 0.946. And this is equal to 53.488. Okay? So we have 53.488 kilogram per hour. So now we know the value of our M4 stream. Okay, so our M4 stream is equal to 53.488 kilogram per hour. Okay, another significant value that we have here is this one. We have 92.6% of xylene from M1 na napunta dito sa M5. So that means we can determine the value of X xylene, no? Dito sa ating bottoms. So that's what we're going to do next. We can determine xylene in M5. Okay, so how are we going to do that? It is mentioned that our bottom will have 92.6% of X from M1. Okay, so in our M1 we have 15 kilogram per hour of X. So that means our X in M5 is equal to 0.926 of 15 kilogram per hour. Okay, so that means our X M5 is equal to, okay, so let us calculate that here. We have 0.926 times 15 is equal to 13.89. Okay, so let us write that here. 13.89 kilogram per hour of X in our M5. Okay, so let us box this para na-identify natin yung ating mga sagot. Okay, so here we have the toluene in M4. Okay, so green ang mga composition natin, red is our main streams. Now, we know that xylene in M5 is 0.776. So that means 0.776 of our M5 is equal to 13.89. So in that case, we can determine the value of M5. Okay, and we can do that knowing that 0.776 of M5 is equal to 13.89. So 0.776 of M5 is equal to this value, 13.89. So we have 13.89 in here. So our M5 is equal to 13.89 divided by 0.776. Okay, so therefore our M5 is equal to, again, let's calculate, 13.89 divided by 0.776. And this is equal to 7.899. I mean 17.899. Okay, so we have 17.899 kilogram per hour. Okay, so we have the value of M5, which is 17.899 kilogram per hour. So this is 17.899 kilogram per hour. And we already know the value of xylene, which is 13.89 kilogram per hour. So we have here 13.89 kilogram per hour. Okay, so we know the value of M1, M4, and M5. So based from this overall material balance, alam natin yung value ng M1, M4, and M5. So now we can determine the value of M2. So we will have here our overall material balance, which is M1 is equal to M2 plus M4 plus M5. Our M1 is equal to 100 is equal to M2 plus our M4, which is 53.488 plus our M5, which is 17.899. So therefore our M2 is equal to, okay, let us calculate this value. We have our M1, which is 100, minus our M4, which is 53.488. Then again, minus our M5, which is 17.899. So our M2 is equal to 28.613. So we have here 28.613 kilogram per hour. Okay, so now we know the value of M2. So we can write that here, 28.613. So our M2 is 28.613 kilogram per hour. Okay? So the next thing to do is to identify our M3, because alam na natin lahat ng value ng ating streams. Ang hindi na lang natin alam is yung M3. And we can do that by using any of these balances, because we know the value of M1, M2, we don't know M3, and in here M3 is equal to M4 plus M5. So I'm going to use this one, okay, our material balance in the second unit. So I'm going to determine the value of our M3. So material balance in the second unit, this is equal to M3 is equal to M4 plus M5. So our M3 is equal to M4, which is 53.488 plus M5, which is 17.899. So our M3 is equal to, we have 53.488 plus 17.899. So this is equal to 71.387 kilogram per hour. Okay, so now we have the value of all our streams. So our M3 is equal to 71.387. Okay, so alam na natin yung mga values ng ating streams. So ang kailangan natin ngayon malaman is yung ating mga components. So, we know the value of our M2 at ang mass fractions ng bawat component niya dito sa M2, no? So, let us write this down para ma-compute natin ang kanilang values, no? So, let us determine the compositions in M2. Okay? So, we know the value of M2. Our M2 is equal to 28.613 kilogram per hour. Okay? And then, we are told that B is 0.944. Our T is 0.0454. And our X is, ano nga uli yung X natin? Our X is 0.0106. So, we have 0.0106. Okay, so what we have to do is to multiply that to our M2 para makuha natin yung values nila. So, let us multiply this to 28.613. Okay, so this is equal to 28.613 times 0.944. This is equal to 27.01 kilogram per hour. And this one, 28.613, this is equal to 28.613 times 0.0454. This is equal to 1.299 kilogram per hour. And then here we have 28.613, which is will be equal to 28.613 times 0.0106. So this is equal to 0.3033. Okay, 0.3033 kilogram per hour. Okay, so may values na tayo ng BT and X dito sa ating M2. Okay? So, para maging malinaw, let us write that here. Our B is 27.01. Our T is 1.299. And our X is 0.3033. Okay, so may values na tayo lahat ng M2 and M1. Now, using our overall material balance, we can determine the value of toluene dito sa ating M5. Because we know the value of toluene sa feed, toluene dito sa ating M3, and toluene dito sa ating M4. Okay, so we know that in our M4, our toluene is equal to 50.6 kilogram per hour. So, nasolve na natin yan dito. So, we have this one, 50.6. Okay, so let us now solve for the toluene in M5. Okay, so our toluene in our M1 is equal to the toluene in M2 plus the toluene in M3 plus the toluene in M5. I mean, this is M4. Okay, so this will be our equation. We know the value of toluene in M1, toluene in M2, and toluene in M4. We don't know the toluene in M5, so we can determine that. Now, our toluene in M1 is equal to 55 kilograms per hour. Okay, so we have here 55 kilograms per hour. Our toluene in M2, kasagutan na natin yan dito. This is 1.299 plus toluene in M4. Our toluene in M4 this one, toluene in M4 is equal to 50.6 kilogram per hour. So, plus toluene in M5. Now, we can calculate for the toluene in M5. Our toluene in M5 is equal to 55 minus 1.299 minus 50.6. So, our toluene in M5 is equal to, we have 55 minus 1.299 minus 50.6. Okay, so this is equal to 3.101 kilogram per hour. Okay, so alam na natin yung value ng toluene in M5, which is 3.101 kilogram per hour. Okay, so this is 3.101 kilogram per hour. Okay, so now let us determine yung silane dito sa ating M4. Because alam natin yung silane sa M1, alam natin yung silane sa M2, we know also silane dito sa ating M5. Okay? So, let us do that here. We know that silane in M1 is equal to silane in M2 plus silane in M4 plus silane in M5. So, our silane in M1, it's here. It is equal to 15 kilogram per hour. So, we have 15 kilogram per hour is equal to our X in M2. Dito siya, 0.3033. 0.3033 plus our silane in M4. Our silane in M4, okay, we don't know. Yan ang hinahanap natin. Now, we need to get the silane in M5, which is 13.89. So, ito yun. Okay, so, X M4 plus 13.89. So, we can now solve for XM4. Our XM4 is equal to 15 minus 0.3033 minus 13.89. So, therefore, our X in M4 is equal to, let us calculate again. We have 15 minus 0.3033 minus 13.89. This is equal to 0.8067 kilogram per hour. Okay, so I'll just box this out. So our answer for X in M4 is 0.8067 kilogram per hour. Okay, so now let us determine itong components natin sa M3. So you can do either way. Okay, dahil alam na natin yung T and X dito sa ating M4 and M5. Alam din natin yung T and X dito sa ating 1 and 2, no? M1 and M2. Okay, so I will use this part for determining the value of B, T, and X. Okay, itong ating first unit. So, let me write that again sa ibaba para hindi tayo balik ng balik dito sa ating figure, no? Okay, so let us go down. Okay, so let me draw again yung ating figure, no? Para hindi tayo balik ng balik dun sa itaas. So, our first unit. Okay, so hindi na siya straight. Anyway, we have M1, we have M2, and we have M3. Okay? So, our M1 is equal to 100 kilogram per hour. Our M2 is equal to 28.613 kilogram per hour. And our M3 is equal to 71.387 kilograms per hour. So our benzene is equal to 30 kilograms per hour. Our toluene is 55 kilograms per hour. And our xylene is 15 kilograms per hour. Dito naman sa ating M2, our benzene, toluene, and xylene. Our benzene is equal to 27.01. Our toluene is 1.299. Okay, so here we have 1.299. And our xylene is 3.033. Okay, so kailangan nating ma-determine yung ating benzene, toluene, and xylene dito sa ating M3. Okay, so let us have benzene balance first. Okay, so benzene balance. So what we have here is our benzene in M1 is equal to the benzene in M2 plus the benzene in M3. Okay, so our benzene in M1 is 30. Our benzene in M2 is 27.01. So we don't know what is benzene in M3. So benzene in M3 is equal to 30 minus 27.01. So our benzene in M3 is equal to 30 minus 27.01 is equal to 2.99. Okay, so we have 2.99 kilogram per hour. Okay, so our B is 2.99 kilogram per hour. Okay, so now let us determine yung ating toluene. So let's have toluene balance. So our toluene in M1 is equal to toluene in M2 plus toluene in M3. Toluene in M1 is 55. This is equal to toluene in M2, which is 1.299 plus toluene in M3. So our toluene in M3 is equal to 55 minus 1.299. So our toluene in M3 is equal to, okay, so let us solve that. 55 minus 1.299. So this is equal to 53.701 kilogram per hour. Okay, so we have here 53.701 kilogram per hour. Now we have to determine the xylene in M3. So we have xylene balance. So xylene in M1 is equal to xylene in M2 plus xylene in M3. Xylene in M1 is 15. Xylene in M2 is 3.033 plus xylene in M3. So xylene in M3 is equal to 15 minus 3.033. So therefore, our xylene in M3 is equal to, okay, so we have 15 minus 3.033. This is equal to 11.967 kilogram per cubic meter. Okay, so here we have 11.967 kilogram per hour, sorry. This is per hour. Okay, so let me just erase it. Okay, so this is kilogram per hour. Okay, so now we have all the values in our M3. So sulat natin sa taas para malinaw yung ating sagot. We have our B, which is 2.99 kilogram per hour. We have our toluene, which is 53.701 kilogram per hour, and our xylene, which is 11.967 kilogram per hour. Okay, so ang naiwan na lang sa atin is yung benzene sa M4 and benzene sa M5. But this is very easy now dahil alam naman na natin yung value ng mga components natin. For example, in M4, we know that our stream is equal to 53.466 kilogram per hour. And we know that our toluene is equal to 50.6 kilogram per hour and our xylene is 0.8067 kilogram per hour. So that means we can get the value of our benzene. So how are we going to do that? So all we have to do is to add all our value of T and X and subtract that here sa ating M4 because our M4 is equal to benzene plus toluene plus xylene. Okay, so therefore our benzene is equal to M4, which is 53.466 minus our toluene, which is 50.6 minus our xylene, which is 0.8067. So therefore our benzene is equal to, let us calculate that again. We have 53.466 minus 50.6, then minus 0.8067. So we have 2.0593 kilogram per hour. So therefore, our benzene here is equal to 2.0593 kilogram per hour. Okay, so the same on what we're going to do here. Our benzene here is equal to our M5, which is 17.899 minus our toluene, which is 3.101 minus our xylene, which is 13.89. So our benzene in our M5 will be equal to 17.899 minus 3.101 and minus 13.89. Okay, so this is equal to 0.908. So we have 0.908 kilogram per hour. So now we got the value of our benzene sa M5, which is 0.908 kilogram per hour. So as you can see now, we got all the values ng ating streams and components dito sa ating distillation column in series. However, take note that ang pinahanap sa atin dito is yung compositions on all streams. Samantalang lahat ng nakuha nating values are expressed in kilogram per hour as per our basis of 100 kilogram per hour. So, para makuha natin yung values natin dito, we have to get the percent composition on every section. However, I will not be solving that anymore. So, to leave you the chance to proceed with the remaining values na kailangan natin makuha for our problem. So, with all of that and more, I will see you in our next lesson.